Good evening. This is Art Tamrowski, and welcome to tonight's show. And tonight's show is all about Letchworth State Park and the anniversary of Agnes, the hurricane from 1972. And we're going to kind of reminisce, and who I have with me is no other than Doug Bassett.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, good. Welcome to Letchworth Cable Access. You realize we're called Letchworth Cable.
You bet.
Yeah, so we're kind of family in many ways.
Yes.
Well, Doug, what is your official title over there at Letchworth State Park?
I work there as a conservation educator. And what that entails is the delivery, the design, the carrying out, the evaluation of our interpretive programs, the public hikes, the schedule of events that we do throughout the year. Right now we're gearing up for the summer programs, July and August.
Okay, during the month of June, you're just gearing up, as you would say.
No, we're carrying out our programs for June, which are part of our spring schedule. April, May, June, our spring programs.
Okay.
And officially with our booklet, the Genesee Naturalist, which advertise our programs, those are July, August, and September. And in July and August, we do a lot more programming. We have several programs each day. We have summer interns that we're working with. We also have some seasonal employees that require getting up to speed to deliver the programs that will be offered in July and August. So there's a lot of preparation to that intensive delivery. Other than in July and August, there are programs that happen every month of the year, but they're not every day, and multiple programs a day. So it's just more intense.
So you're girding up for a heavy-duty summer.
Well, yes, every summer that way. And so June is the last final touches of people trying to learn a lot of information so that they can be able to deliver a quality program to the people that are attending.
I see. Well, we're here to talk about the Hurricane Agnes, and that was before your time.
Well, in terms of working officially in the park, I started working there in July of 1973. But in that 72 was my graduation out of Warsaw High. I was over in the park and viewing many of the places and got a chance to see firsthand the effects of the flood. And then in the 25 years since then, I've had a chance to see the continuing effects of that flood in various places throughout the park.
Right? Yeah. You'll have to tell us after we view the video, okay?
Sounds excellent.
Yeah, because it looks pretty ravaging, and it's really...
Definitely.
Yeah, it was quite an eye-opener. Well, let's take a moment now to take a look at it, okay?
Sounds great.
Yeah, we'll look at it on the monitor.
Between peaceful Gold, Pennsylvania and Lake Ontario, the beautiful north-flowing Genesee River became a river run amok, a maelstrom in its course, devastating flooding from Wellsville to Scottsville. From June 20th to 26th, 1972, an intense low-pressure system was stalled by Hurricane Agnes, dumping a near incredible 16 inches of rain on the watershed in just 5 days. The results were most impressive at Letchworth State Park, where waters estimated at 90,000 square feet per second were compressed, funneled through what the Indians called Segahunda, the Vale of the Three Falls. From the 1875 Iron High Bridge at Upper Falls to Mary Jemison's Gardow Flats, Geneseo, the Indian name for beautiful valley, would never look the same again. Tremendous noise. You had a sense the ground was moving, vibration underfoot, in the big tree you were leaning against. In the words of park nature consultant Doug Bassett, he said, you had to yell or talk loudly in the other person's ear. There was a tremendous amount of soil in the air. You felt like an earthworm. The mist had so much soil in it. There was texture to the moisture. It had clinged to your skin like wet makeup, like clay. It was a very odd feeling. The quantity of what was able to be thrown into the atmosphere that was not water was incredible. You almost felt that breathing it you were getting dirt inside you. The upper falls is where I felt that the most. So said Doug Bassett. The park had wisely fenced off areas to keep spectators at a safe distance. The trail from Upper Falls viewing machine was closed to the Portage High Bridge as the river was raging against that bank, undercutting the stonework, and there was no way of knowing if or when the bank might slide from underneath. Closest safe approach was the rapids between the upper and middle falls. Here, the river seemed running higher than the land. Great waves called standing waves would appear and disappear. Bassett said, "I had a feeling that if I was standing on the low part of a wave, I wouldn't be able to look over it." Great slabs of rock weighing many tons were being moved, grinding along the riverbed. Not one you can see today was not moved in '72. Fastest water flow would be in the middle, slower on the sides, top and bottom. At a curve, the fast water moves to the outside of the curve. In the immediate area, damage began in Portageville. The approaches to the Route 436 bridge were totally washed out when waters were deflected by a mass of debris against the bridge, which, amazingly, held. Near the bridge, flood waters caused a short circuit and fire in a garage. Its destruction, punctuated by explosions, was total, as firemen couldn't reach it. The river gauging station nearby was obliterated, so no accurate measurements could be made. Nothing survived the pummeling of that river. There was all kinds of stuff in the river, Bassett said. You'd get what might be little glimpses of things, like partly digested things oozing out, and you'd wonder, what was that? Did I really see that? And it was hard on your senses because of attempting to distinguish what you were trying to imagine in all that motion. But Bridal Veil Falls never looked lovelier. Main damage in the park was to the trees. Some nearly 100 feet tall and 2 feet thick were undermined and claimed by the river, which was running, depending on location, 15 to 30 feet above normal. Biggest trees were the cottonwoods, fastest growing and nearest the river's edge. All of this stupendous energy was nowhere more awesome, perhaps, than when compressed into the narrow sluice below the footbridge above Sugarloaf, also called Cathedral Rock. Water was actually forced through the mass of it. Almost miraculously, the footbridge, its abutments, masses of concrete anchored in bedrock, held. Only a few 40 to 50-pound capstones on it were lost, pulled like teeth from their cement settings. The East Bank Trail downstream from the bridge and the stairway from Table Rock were obliterated. Just a short distance downstream, about Lee's Landing, the lake began, nearly 12 miles long, floodwaters impounded behind the Mount Morris Dam. Park manager Tom Breslin recalls that here damage to trees took a different form. Inundated at the peak of their spring growth, most rapid of any time of year, they were cut off from oxygen and any normal plant physiology for almost a week. Of course, the area immediately below the lower falls was the last to be inundated and the first to be drained. But the Gardeau area held the deepest water longest, and that's where the Army Corps of Engineers moved in after the flood, because they knew eventually every one of those thousands of dead trees would wind up behind the dam. As it was, 3 to 4 acres of timber, some of it huge logs, was lodged behind the dam, and had they gone over the spillway, they'd have lodged against one bridge, damming up water till something had to give, then on to the next vulnerable bridge, and we'd have been losing highway bridges from Mount Morris to Rochester. To prevent this, 9 conduit gates, we call them floodgates, 5 by 7 feet each, exhausting water downstream at 23,700 cubic feet per second, were full open, and still the lake level rose, stopping just short of the top of the dam. They don't fill the dam unless it's necessary. They let the river drain its full quantity, keeping a certain level behind the dam and keeping those floodgates open as needed. And so long as the volume of water doesn't build up to the point where the river beyond the dam can't handle it, they don't have to fill the dam. There was no human injury or loss of life in the park as a result of Agnes. The Vale of the Three Falls endured and will virtually unchanged through this and other hurricanes, thanks to William Pryor Letchworth and his trustees, the New York State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation.
Okay, that was a momentous occasion to watch that, looking at all that eerie flooding water. Bassett, that name is familiar. Is the fellow who filmed it, is he related to you?
Yeah, Ray is related. They moved shortly after filming that down to Florida, and coincidentally, I guess, it wasn't by any design that there's that relationship.
I
but
see.
yes.
Okay, that's good. And the narration was good in that too.
Yeah, Walter Dixon put together basically what Ray had was 16 millimeter footage, and then he was able to do some research and put some other information and give it even some more dramatic life into that format that we just watched.
Yeah, that's a nice way to start this show, because it just kind of shows what happened. I never saw what happened, because on the night of the 23rd, my wife and I, in a camper full of 3 kids, traveled out west for 9 weeks, and we went out to California. So all I heard was when I was in Ohio or something, that there was a flood in New York State. So I never knew any of that. So seeing this kind of film footage is kind of unique.
Well, there's some very dramatic portions there that really give you the sense of the ferocity of the water's volume.
Yeah.
Because it was so much higher than anything that's ever been recorded in the river.
Is that
the
right?
Magnitude.
Yeah.
We don't know the exact volume that actually was there, because the gauging station in Portageville was one of the casualties. As that water came rushing over the bridge there, the gauging station was downstream, and it was ripped out of its concrete holdings. And we can only have estimates that something the size of the Niagara River was flowing down through that channel.
Amazing, yeah. That's okay. Now the Mount Morris Dam. What if that was not there? What would happen?
Well, you can only postulate. And the interesting thing about the dam, it wasn't quite like an airplane. You go out and test it. The only way to test it was to fill it. Here was a dam built, finished in 1952, and it's not until some 20 years later that it gets to be tested. That was the first time it was filled. Because it was built for flood control, they weren't filling it unless there was a flood that would cause it to fill. And at one point, they were saying it was rising at nearly 1 foot per hour behind the dam. The log boom that was designed to catch all the trees broke, so all that debris was right up near the spillway. The spillway was designed such that it could spill over, but they didn't want all those logs coming down because take out all the bridges between there and Lake Ontario. And I guess the last time that happened was back in 1835 or something on one of the tremendous floods that happened then.
So thank God for that dam.
Yeah, you would have gutted downtown Rochester without that kind of structure, because all those logs would have been coming down and smashing in.
That's one situation where the man dealing and trying to control nature, where man does know what he's doing for the most part.
It's always a compromise. If you want to look at the bottom line, to build on a floodplain isn't the safest thing. So all those homes and farms and cities and development on a floodplain, in terms of knowing what to do, those are not safe places. So look at the Mississippi, look at any major river system. They're attracted to build in those areas because of transportation, because of power, because of the fertility of a river floodplain. But it holds its dangers.
And you know, once they've flooded, they've ruined their house, they've lost everything, they'll go right back and...
Well, because of that value, because of the fertile land, because of the efforts that it has already had with them for tradition of families, of generations living there. It's hard to give up. Well, that's your land. We shouldn't build there.
And we're prepared for the inevitable next flood, which might be what, 50 years, 20 years, 25 years?
We've had some big water since 72. We've had some other hurricanes. We've had some other volumes. Like I said, I don't know what the volume was. It may have been over 80,000 cubic feet per second in the flood of 72. And a cubic foot is about 7 gallons of water. So you're with 80,000, you're dealing with more than 250,000 of gallons per second. And that's a city of people throwing you a gallon of water in a second.
Was that the year that Chemung River and Corning got flooded?
Yeah.
Same year.
Yeah. It affected the whole Northeast. We had a wet period, and then Hurricane Agnes peeled off along the coast, dropping a foot of rain or so on top of saturated water, so it was all running off. And the channels just were inundated by that volume.
Yeah, the one thing I can remember before we left town was how the night went. It was thunder and lightning. It was as if it was going in a circle. It was some close to a Holocaust type thing. We weren't worried because, you know, in Castel we're kind of high and up and above. Okay, so we'll leave the waters of the Genesee, and then let's get back into some of the things that you do. I've videotaped you countless times, Doug, and you take people. You took me through the museum. You took me up into the region there, the campgrounds and such, the pioneer cabins, and I'm totally amazed with the knowledge that you have. You've got everything.
I don't have everything, but I try to learn a little bit every day. And if you just learn one new thing a day, which is a modest goal, that's several hundred things a year, and I've been at it a couple decades. So that's a lot of things you can get familiar with. And I'm always seeing new things.
You say everything like you're falling off a log. I think the greatest thing that impressed me was what you were talking about, like in the pioneer cabin, the longhouse. You talked about how this timber in this log cabin came to be harvested 100 and some years ago, so it was probably planted at the discovery of America.
Or before. Yeah, some of those logs that are in the Candia Council House, which is our oldest structure within the park, being moved from Allegheny County. The building goes back into the 1800s, and those logs were from the forests in that area, and the growth rings indicating that they were forest trees. They could even go back to Columbus. Some of them.
Columbus.
Yeah.
1492.
Could go back.
Sitting right there.
Yep.
Not an antique store sign above them or anything.
No.
Gee, that's remarkable. Well, with this wealth of knowledge that you have, do you take people out on these courses and walks?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a large bulk of what I do. Our programs in the park for the public. We also do programs for special interest groups, a senior citizen group, a school group, a college group, a scout group. And many of those programs are orchestrated as field trips, and we look at highlights. We have some trees that are still living that are that kind of old
Really?
age in the park. On a rock cliff, there was some footage there of some of the cliff environment. You could see that one place where down in the Portage Canyon, a huge volume of material goes collapsing in a landslide form into the canyon. On some of those cliffs, there are trees that are basically rooted in the rocks and have survived many calamities like that. I have a section of wood that I recovered from a talus slope that indicated a tree that lived 435 years on the cliff. And we have some trees that have that similar stressful situation that they're growing with very little water, being right on bare rock, heat stress, winter cold stress, that may be over 500 years old and still living. Although not well, it's still living.
I remember in one of the tours you're just talking about all the grasses and all the fossils and all the everything your hand touches, your eyes see. You have a story about.
There's stories in everything, and what I find the most fascinating are the interrelationships. Once you get past the what is this, and who is this, and where does it live, how is it related to other things, who uses it, what does it use. It's those interreactions that I find very fascinating.
When you take young people through, do they seem as
that's the best, because
Really?
many times they aren't constrained by pure pressure of what to ask, what not to ask. There's the immediate inquisitiveness of their surroundings, and for many, they are in a better position to see some of the smaller things. Something on the ground can easily, by a person that's adult height, be overmissed. A shorter person sees that little insect moving or that little discovery that eyes farther away just don't find. And so frequently, I could be on a hike that I've been on many times before, and a younger, smaller person points out something that I never saw, and may have no information about. It's a discovery for that moment, the serendipity of it all.
Yeah. They ought to put your brain on the internet or something.
That would be a scary thought.
I remember seeing you have in your naturalist book.
Yes.
You call it the Genesee
The
Naturalist?
Genesee Naturalist.
That's published monthly, right?
It's a quarterly booklet we put out each season, and the booklet that's out now in late June is the summer booklet, and it covers July, August, and September. And so each season there's a summer booklet, a fall booklet, a winter booklet, spring booklet.
Okay, and in that you list all the hikes that you escort people.
All the programs that we do in that season are listed. There's descriptions of the programs, ratings of the difficulties, because they range from our programs, indoor, easy accessible, like wheelchair programs, to some programs this summer that are difficult all day. You need to be in good shape in order to be able to carry out the program.
Rain or shine?
Most are rain or shine. In the case of the indoor programs, there really isn't much that would cancel an indoor program. Some of the outdoor programs, severe weather, windstorms, lightning storms are about the only thing that would cancel the program.
You've never had any casualties to speak of?
Oh, no, none.
Great. I can picture people following you around as glued to every word you say. But how large are your groups?
It ranges. Some of our programs are pre-registered, and we limit them because of the constraints in which we're dealing with the physical environment that we're taking them into. But other programs are not limited. One that is well attended traditionally are some of our evening programs where we're called owl prowls. People want to see some owls, so we go out.
Owl.
We're looking for owls.
Prowling for owls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people are lured into that time of day to night that we're not very familiar with, and the intrigue of that often brings 30, 40, 50 people out for a program like that. So it ranges. We may have a half a dozen, may have many dozen that come on a particular program.
What on earth do people from downstate Manhattan think when they see what you have to offer?
Well, a lot of times from any perspective that a person comes to a hike, a person from a different perspective might think greatly different, but some of the wildest, neatest areas are from Manhattan, and it is not a foreign world. Right in our own locale, I have had people in more shock and more unfamiliar territory than I have from people out of New York City.
Interesting.
So you never know. It's very difficult to categorically get an impression for a person. And there's some interesting parallels. Manhattan is about the same size as Letchworth State Park. Within Manhattan, there are more people than we have trees in Letchworth State Park. And the way in which they're grouped and still be able to function as a society is interesting to see what
it's a wonderful point. More, the number of people equate the number of trees.
I don't have the exact figures, but I believe there are actually more people in Manhattan than there are trees in Letchworth State Park.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, you represent a park that has, historic with, the Native Americans, historic with William Pryor Letchworth, historic in the sense that, my God, archaeologically it's a geologist, gold mine. And you cross all these sections. You go from biology to
a little bit of everything.
Environmental.
The drawback of that is you can be really expert in nothing. But as you learn more about a subject, on the one hand, you realize how little you know about it, but as you begin to become a little more familiar with it, you can appreciate that body of knowledge and pass along the best you can to others that are curious about it.
Okay. Back to your tours. Are they on Sundays and Saturdays as well as Mondays?
Yep, 7 days a week in July and August we have programs. We have several people delivering the programs.
Okay, and your booklet, The Genesee Naturalist, you do the illustrations for two of
Yeah,
them?
I enjoy drawing.
Jeez,
Always
that's
have. Yeah.
Well, I'm an ex-art teacher. I'll have to grade you on that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Doug Bassett, thank you so much for coming by
you're welcome.
tonight. And thank you for all the information. Thanks for bringing that tape. Say thank you to Brian Scriven and Jane McLaughlin.
Shall do.
Okay, thanks for watching, and get down to that park, go to the administration building, pick up the Genesee Naturalist, and find out when you can learn a great deal, more than you'll ever know, from Doug Bassett. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, good night.